All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Movie here. This is going to be your SITREP. It is 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you from the great state of Texas. It is going to be June 8th, 2022. And so, without further ado, let's hop over here to our boards. Just make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe, and bell for notifications so you get the latest and greatest. We're going to kick it off in Skyglass this morning. As always, looking at about 534 up, at least showing. 581 actually, if we look at all the mill aircraft, which is 534 showing here. So that's quite a bit actually. Significantly higher, almost 2x what we normally see, which is a interesting little data point. So up here at the top of the screen, you see these that are higher than everybody else. Those are going to be your military intelligence balloons spying on you and me. And so they are up 24/7. Just from time to time, I don't get them on my feed. But you've got a couple also down a little lower down here in the corner that aren't really showing from an altitude perspective. But they are also out coast to coast. And so now the other day we were talking, we had a couple of these gray aircraft, gray 20, gray 21, I think it was. We caught a 3-ship or a 4-ship actually headed down off of Florida down to what I thought looked like could either be Guantanamo Bay or Puerto Rico. Turns out it was Puerto Rico. And so these were intelligence birds, right? So they're the ones with all the antennas hanging off of them and everything else. It looks like, and we'll look at this closer here in just a minute, they're doing some activity down here in Caracas or in the general area in North Venezuela kind of thing. So again, we'll look at that closer here in just a second. So let me get over to our let's see. We'll start out with the watch list. Just give you that idea since we're talking about it anyway. But this is going to be your. You got some Swift Airs in there that we've been watching. Right, I added them to the list, and those are kind of the blue-looking color aircraft. So they kind of fall under that commercial range, but they're doing military stuff. And then, of course, we've got our R135. You can see this is where the work is being done down there by Swift Air in Colombia, Bogota. There's your gray flight right there. That's the one I was talking about. It has been going back and forth between Puerto Rico and Caracas, and you can see it's got everything known to man hanging off of it. So big-time intelligence bird. A couple P-8s there along the southeast coast. That's kind of our area of watch right now. We seem to have a lot of activity going on in that general location, so we'll keep an eye on that one. As always, this has been about 2.5 months now of heavy focus on southeast stuff. There's when your R135's out running routes. So, okay, let's get over here to the heavy lifts. This kind of tells or starts to tell the story of what we've been looking at. So these are going to be your C-17s, kind of little short haul stuff. A couple of C-130s short haul stuff, C-17s long haul stuff. You can see it's kind of a mix in there. Not as many C-17s as I would normally see. Looks like we've got more C-130s than anything else. And we get over to Europe, and it's the same way. Kind of feeding that same machine, although I have noticed an uptick in the aircraft that are headed into Spain and that general area. So you can see Turkey's pretty active, but you can see right along the border, we're sitting there replenishing, and then over on the west side of Europe, as well as down into Egypt and the Middle East. Again, I think these are FOBs, what they would, forward operating bases, to support a war that we are certainly going into in the not too distant future. So, all right, there is that one. Now let's get over here to the refuelers. You can see kind of light in terms of the EU and refuelers coming out of Spain. Again, that's kind of the new support location they look to be standing up. You got one, it looked like it ventured down there to Central Africa, South Africa, which is interesting because we just saw the Soviets go down there too, right? So now that is over Poland, looks to be most of the support. And then if we get over to the East Coast, you can see that is the heavy concentration, east, northeast. And sorry, these are going to flash on and flash off. Don't know why it did that just inadvertently, but they go away, so that's okay. But yeah, you can see it's all the same side of the house. Everything seems to be really, really focused on the East Coast. So, all right, now this is one that I always find interesting. This is going to be your massed aircraft. The reason I say it's interesting is just because these are people that do not want to be seen. So they basically mask their aircraft so it's a NA or a blocked or whatever, but you can kind of dig in on the details on some of these. These are the ones over Europe. Not quite as many over Europe as we have over the U.S. U.S. is insanely full of people that don't want to be seen. So, but you can see if you kind of get into it, there's it's Brownstone Aviation, there's Dale Ridge Road Aviation, pretty specific, dealer equipment, just a lot of different hodgepodge kind of stuff. Now, from time to time, we do see other aircraft fly in that are kind of associated with folks. Like we did see the Walmart bird fly in, right, that had the owners on it. You'll see things like Jeff Bezos. Sometimes you see a Trump stuff in there too. So kind of hit and miss. You never know what you're going to get in this, and it is a needle in a haystack. Not to the same degree as it would be for commercial aviation, needle in a haystack, but from a military or just mask perspective, there's a lot more up there, and so you really have to dig and sort it out if you're trying to find something. Okay, so we've looked at all of that. Let me just make sure I covered everything. We talked about mass, refuelers, heavy lifts, and a watch list. Let's get over here to our board, and we're going to talk about Flashbang. It looks like he is headed westbound, headed out to Los Angeles today. He's going to be, which is interesting, he's going to be on with this guy, which I don't even watch his show. Dude's a numbnut, but nonetheless, he's going to be on that. Probably a perfect fit for Flashbang. But anyway, Ninth Summit of Americas. Didn't even know that was going on. Just happened to be popping in today. It kicks off. Now, the interesting thing is you've got Trudeau coming down from Canada and leaders coming from Honduras and other locations. Now, I did see this just popped out. Mexican president is actually not going to be attending this because he was... I guess butthurt level bravo because the White House decided they were going to uninvite a couple of countries, that being they excluded leaders from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And so the Mexican president decided, well, if you're not going to invite them, then it's not really worth him going. So he backed out at the last minute. Should be an interesting summit, to say the least. God knows what happens when these guys get together. It's never good for the people, is it? So, all right, now over here to the watchers, I want to just point out, this is a headline that caught my attention. U.S. declares a national energy emergency. That was kind of quiet. I haven't heard anything else other than just seeing this. Kind of caught me a little bit by surprise, but I'm not surprised. Under this administration, nothing's a shocker. But evidently, they declared this on June 6th. And it's supposed to go on. This is not, they're saying it's going to stay in effect for 24 months, and it has to do with basically our inability to provide or meet customer demand. And so that is a pretty big sign. We're going to see a lot of blackouts and rollouts happening here across the U.S. in the coming months. I guarantee it. So, all right. Now, over here to our volcanic alert. I just show you got 5 down here between Central America and South America. It is popping off. We've got one out here at the tip, kind of in between Alaska and Russia, out here by the Bering Sea. You can see that one's blowing some pretty good ash. These up in this area tend to blow a pretty good amount of ash, which is not good because if you notice the travel routes, you get over here to our map and you start looking at these travel routes. You can see they are kind of leaning south. They probably, some of them used to go a little bit higher up, but that one right there, that's going to be your volcano, and that's why they readjust these things. But you can see them coming a little, just barely south of that, so that could impact travel across the drink. Of course, the one in Japan is firing off as always, and then this one down here, Ducano, is back at it again. So we'll continue to watch it, but 8 of them is the count for today. All right. Now, we talk a lot about the fact that we're seeing shortages everywhere. Sri Lanka just went dry, and now it looks like Chad is actually saying that they are running out of food, and so that's they've declared a national emergency because their grain supplies have basically dropped off. Now, that's including their cows. That's feeding just about everybody and everything. So, anyway. another data point, but you'll see these third world countries in Africa start to pop onto this list of running out. You'll see it around Central America. That's coming 100%. And this is just, like I said, as we head into summer months, you're going to see more and more of this. And then slowly, as that noose tightens, it'll come into the bigger countries, Russia, America, China, Canada, those kind of places, Mexico, as everybody starts to run out. So, okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the TFRs and the NOTAMs for today. Again, these purple and green things those are routes, I believe, for going across the drink. But if we get into kind of the center of the U.S., just take a look. I'm going to pull up a couple just to show you. I can't go into all of them because we'd be here all day. But you can see this is a military op starting today. It was only 11:30 to 1 p.m. Central Time. 11,000 feet to 18,000 feet. So there is that one today. We've got another one here in West Virginia. Evers military operation activated, again, only for today. So if you're in those areas, just kind of a heads up. Another one, Snowbird. Let's see, we just talked about the Snowbird. So let's get up into this one and see if this is different. January 1, this is actually for the whole year. Let's see, I did see a couple others. This one, same thing, scheduled for the whole year. Up here in Missouri. And let me see, we can get down into different, let's see, this one is, okay, there's your Snowbird, and let's see if this is connected again. No, Buckeye, sorry. So that, again, Buckeye military operation, Snowbird operation. You can see all this stuff coming off of the East Coast. Same kind of thing, May 30th through June 1, supposedly is ended, but still out there in terms of boxes. So this one I thought was interesting. We looked at this the other day. This is actually put in place by the United Kingdom, and it's for the Grand Caymans. So evidently, they're going to be holding military operations in that area. I imagine that is tied, as it says here, to the Ukrainian crisis. That means you got people fleeing here with their money, and we're down there stopping them. Okay. Now we had some operations going on down here. SKR-8. Restricted area, that's March 18th to no invalid date, but it's low altitude, actually, up to surface to 7,000 feet. So there's no telling what that is all about. But I just showed you that the flights coming in from Puerto Rico into this region, into Caracas and into Bogota and Venezuela. And so that would probably be all tied to what we're seeing on those spy birds. Now we get over here to the other side of the drink, if I can get this thing to pull over, and we can just kind of see what's going on here. Very, very busy. As you can see, all the NOTAMs floating out here. This is going to be mostly NATO operations and training exercises throughout. Same thing in here. But you can see this whole area is really getting pretty populated as NATO and Russia and everybody kind of get pre-positioned for future activities. And so then it takes us over here to the Asian side of the house, Pacific. So this is actually kind of interesting. We know we've got a lot of exercises coming up, and China's actually got some active exercises going on right now. And then, of course, we as well are doing a lot of stuff, both ocean and air, out of Japan, out of South Korea, out of the Philippines. And you can see here's one exercise scheduled that will end March 31st to June 30th in the region. And that's across here in the Philippine side of the house. But there is just a ton of stuff going on, folks. And I imagine this is only going to get more and more populated because everybody seems to be doing the peacock mode right now and throwing out everything they got to make it look like you don't want to mess with us. So, okay. Let's get over here and take a look at what's going on relative to ship traffic. You'll notice when I'm showing you this is China, Beijing up at the top there, but you're going to see the flow is internal to China. It's just running up and down the coastline. That's the only stuff they seem to be supporting themselves, moving things back and forth. Kind of goes in line with some of the intel we're hearing about them jockeying kind of in that war footing. War is an economy, right? So you can see, though, a lot of boats still parked, sitting out there. That means they are not going anywhere else in the world, really. They're just servicing themselves from what it appears. Now, you get over to our docks, LA is starting to really empty out. The stuff that I see in there is domestic product. I don't see anything coming in from across the drink. There's 1 or 2 Hong Kong boats sitting in the cargo docks being unloaded, but they seem to just be there for a long time. Like there's no urgency like there was before. So, but that's Los Angeles. You can see very, very light. And you get up here to San Francisco, which is another major port for us on the West Coast, and it is also very, very light. A lot of stuff parked and not really flowing in and out, as you can see. Okay, so there gives you kind of an idea what the Chinese are up to. Now we get out here to Sri Lanka, and you can see same thing, really. A lot of stuff going around that island, but nothing really coming in. There is the port of Colombo. You can see a couple things sitting out there off the port. And as you get into the port, it is really empty. There's not too much in there. Not a good scenario or situation given the fact that those guys are, we already know, they're out of oil, out of food, out of fuel. But look at the flow going into Russia, coming out through that Istanbul area, and then all the way up to Mariupol. You can see the Russians are flowing stuff in and out on their side very, very well. Get into Constanta, and it's a different story. These things are kind of sitting out here. You can see some oil ships, and then some of the regular green cargo ships that are just docked, waiting to come in. I imagine everything is full, and they're not as fast as everybody else. So anyway, just kind of an overview of what's happening relative to flows of goods, the flow of goods. So, okay. Now, here is something else. Now, we just looked at that in terms of the ports. Now, I want to show you, this is kind of an interesting thing. U.S. import demand is dropping off a cliff. Could have told you that was coming. When we watched everything lock up in Shanghai, which is the busiest port in the world, and nothing flowing across, what we were seeing was the residual. And now, just like inventory levels, you're going to see it's going to start to plummet. They're saying here 41% plunge. Which means it just dropped off a cliff. They're down here, and I imagine they're headed down to here. So it is not good, not a good story. But we told you that was coming, and this is actually just an indicator. Just like when you look at the things that are happening relative to Amazon laying off or shutting down warehouse space, Walmart laying people off, Target Boutique laying people off. Anytime you see that kind of stuff happening, it's because the inventory levels don't justify having all those people and those heads in place. So starting to shrink their footprint. They're getting ready to try and lean out. And so this right here is an indicator that the stuff that's going on with those Amazon, everybody else, is about to really drop off. Okay, because there is a lag between this and the time it gets into a distribution center. All right, now here we were talking about Constanta, and we're talking about the fact that we seem to be protecting that area very, very closely, okay? And so one thing I wanted to show you was Putin is now saying that Ukraine must demine the grain ports. Evidently, the Ukraine and the U.S. went in and dropped a bunch of mines out here in the region to keep people from coming in. So... yeah, so there are mines in here, and that's kind of why I think we've got, the standoff, why they're not going in. So probably the only reason, really. All right, but again, data point. All right. Now, let's get over to the cyber threat map. You can see the U.S. is attacking the U.S. at this point. This is basically, if you kind of get into the what it is kind of deal. Mongolia, Nepal, Georgia, Angola, those are the highest top targeted areas. The industries that are being targeted within those countries, education, government, communications, that's the kind of stuff that you'll see here. When they come in and hit our comms, you'll see companies like Verizon, T-Mobile, Frontier, all of them kind of going offline or having some drop-offs. So. And then, of course, here's some of the top malware types. You've got adware, backdoor, and botnet, and that's just on this cyber threat. You get over to the Star Wars map, and you can see the attacks. The U.S. is getting peppered today. Looks like more so here than anywhere else. It's funny how two maps can show two different things, isn't it? But let's see what the top locations are that are getting hit. And yeah, you guessed it. United States is number 1, Netherlands 2, Romania number 3. Then it gets into Brazil and Russia. So it looks like we've got a nice little cyber exchange going on right now. All right, over here to the Warzone. Talk about the drive and another. You may remember our Elephant March that took place many months ago, back during Trump's term. But it looks like we now are doing another one here. This is an aerial show of force out over South Korea. It looks like we've got a ton of F-16s, F-15s, and look like some F-35s in that mix too. So again, we're going to be out there peacocking, trying to get China not to invade Taiwan. But given the fact that we've set up an exercise for the end of June into the end of August, kind of gives you an indicator that we're expecting something to go hot over there around that time. So we're making that exercise, get in there, so to hopefully to defer them. So, okay, let's see. Over to the Ukraine, just to kind of show you. Russia is now saying they've got the land bridge complete from Western Russia into the Donbass area, all the way down to Crimea. That means the rail is set up, and the flow of the tanks and everything else can now get in and out without any resistance whatsoever. So I would imagine you're getting ready to see an uptick in the war between Ukraine and Russia, and of course the U.S., because we are silently funding all of this. All right, now if I can just remember to turn off all the updates when I'm going live. Let's see. Okay, this is going to be your Andersen Air Force Base. So this is out in Guam. Just want to show you the amount of traffic, significant uptick in and out of that island right now, which would be a pretty good indicator we're staging some stuff and getting ready to go into this big exercise. But you can see all of the aircraft that are coming in and out. A couple Reach up here at the top that came in. The interesting thing is they are not they're not coming from where you think they're coming from. It's an interesting night. This one's coming out of Saipan. So, but there they are, 2 of them in from Saipan, and then these 2 headed down. One's headed back actually into that region, and then these are the other aircraft. Got a NASA C-130 in there too, but very busy board. Normally not seeing a lot of traffic in and out of this location or out in Camp Justice, which is Diego Garcia. It's usually onesie twosies a week. So this is a pretty good indicator that they've got a lot of activity going on out in the Asian Pacific side. All right, Biggs Army Airfield. Again, this is our central point for the U.S. in terms of processing. You're going to notice we got one scheduled headed down to Houston Bush, or actually arriving from Houston, and that's going to be a National Cargo 757-200. And then notice we do have one that's direct coming out of Biggs straight over to Ramstein. That's a Camber flight, 777-200. All right. And then let's get over here to this side. This is Ramstein, just to show you, very, very busy. Again, kind of like what's going on at Andersen out in Guam. Those 2 locations seem to be the pre-staging side. And so let's see here. If I can turn some of this stuff off, it would be a better day. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. Looks like departure-wise, we've got this one, which is a Western Global. Don't see that aircraft very often. It's a 747-400. It's actually not a good-looking plane. Another Atlas Air, 747-400, headed to Dover. Looks like we've got a lot of staging going on in Frankfurt, Germany as well, which is definitely a new spot in terms of the beefing up aspect, all right? And so you can see another one headed down here to Bucharest. And then this one right here, that is headed to Turkey. All right, so that is another air base running back and forth between Ramstein and Turkey. Another aircraft. All right, so another air base that we're watching, though. Remember, that's the one that's just to the top side of Syria, right, in that general region. So here's that Western Global 747. This one's kind of an interesting deal. Notice it is running out of Ramstein into Frankfurt. And if we get into kind of where this thing has been, it rolled in yesterday from Los Angeles to Dover. So it went across the U.S., over here to Dover, Delaware, and then across the drink to Ramstein, and then into Frankfurt. Again, it looks like we're starting to see additional forces built up in Frankfurt as well as Ramstein. Those are the two go-to areas in Germany. But the Frankfurt is new. Also, Spain is new. And so, again, kind of spread out. But here's a picture of that aircraft. You can see very ugly. But anyway, I just leave it white instead of throwing that giant decal on the side. But anyway. Okay, now let's see here. Mcguire, this is actually going to be Lakehurst in New Jersey, just to show you. Air Transport International coming in from Baltimore, Washington. This one, tail number, this is actually a helo that came in from the Deborah Hart and Lung Center. It doesn't have a destination where it's headed, but it was rolling out of there. Took off just a little while ago. And again, that's a helo, so it looks like some kind of a life flight that came in and out. And then we've got Air Transport International headed up to Norfolk, Virginia. And then this right here, this 83-0082 is a DC-10 air refueler. It looks like that one came in just the other day, and actually this morning, and then is rolling back out. Doesn't say where it's headed, just showing it leaving. So, okay. Let's get over here to the Royal Air Force just to show you. We've got one flight coming inbound to the U.S. Again, that's troop movement stuff. I don't know where it's headed. We'll keep an eye on that, see where it ends up going. But then you can see some things leaving England right now, headed into Europe. And then this one headed, it's at 700 feet, 157. So it looks like it's landing, more than likely landing. So, okay. On to our Camber flights. Again, this one's coming out of Homestead. Don't see that very often. So that's kind of a unique one, headed out of Homestead. Don't know where it's going, if it's going to go across the drink or if it's just headed up north. It's currently at 39,000 feet, 564 miles an hour. So that's clicking right along. And then you've got these two in Europe. That one looks to be landing 6,300 feet. So it's on final. It looked like it's going into Sofia, if I had to guess. All right, and then you have another one here. We're going to kind of get into these just to show you. I thought it was interesting. This one coming in from Germany, headed to Tucson. That's a long flight. Tucson, Arizona. That's a troop, probably a rotation. Landed 43 minutes ago. And then we've got this one right here. Again, these are Camber flights, so they're definitely troops. And this one right here took off out of Egypt, and it looks to be landing up here in, it could be Sofia. All right. That's the one I think we just looked at. But anyway. All right. And then the Ruskies. So we had one take off out of Stavropol. Probably didn't pronounce that properly. Looks like we got two of them on the map. Of course, they don't show here. We just got them on the list down here. So we'll click on them and look and see where these guys are headed. This one looks to be headed up to Moscow, 30,000 feet. And we'll go back to this other one. Again, the Ruskies, don't see them very often. When we do, they always seem to be going someplace very interesting, like Central or South Africa. And this one here looks to be, it took off out of VKO. That's going to be in Moscow. And I don't know, it could be headed up to St. Petersburg, or it could be doing touch and goes. No telling. All right, over to our Omnis. Now, this one's kind of an interesting, and I'll show you the flights that we have. Now, we've got this one coming in from Anchorage down into Tacoma, Washington. That's going to be a troop related. This one is definitely serving two masters. This is coming out of, let's see here, San Pedro Sula up to Valley. So that's headed to our border town, as you can see. It probably just took some people back out of the country, I would hope. That it is not full of folks coming in. All right. But nothing would surprise me. It's zero. All right. And this is the flight, actually. You could see rolling out of Honduras up to Harlingen, which is Valley. And that's the flight that we're just tracking. Again, that's Omni Air. And then this is going to be all of our Swift Air flights. As you can see, a lot of stuff coming out of Valley. This one's headed to Alexandria, which is a 72-hour holding facility. Same thing with this one in Phoenix. So it looks like they could very well be taking folks to that 72-hour holding facility before they send them out of the country. It's kind of a jail, I guess you could say, third party for Customs and Border Patrol. And then these rolling out of Valley, you can see this one headed down to El Salvador. Lots of flights that are kind of headed both south of the border and then some headed across, like this one, for example. Kind of makes you wonder what they're up to, right? Tucson to Louisville, Kentucky. Bringing in people? What's going on? Is this the cream of the crop that was selected? Are they headed up there to work? They're going to Amazon? Well, we have. So ain't no telling. All right. Over here, I do have persistence on. I just wanted to show you these are those birds that we saw rolling in and out. Just show you. It came out of San Juan, the north end up there, pretty close to Rincon. But this is a base we see them actually land in from time to time. Here's one of them that just rolled out. As you can see, this is one of the birds right here. It's got that antenna off the back and 8,000 things hanging off of it. It's like a little peacock. It looks like that one's headed eastbound into the island side, and then these are down here. Same thing. These are those gray 20s or gray call signs that are headed into and out of Caracas. So, okay, I think we've got everything covered. Listen, we'll just keep our eyes on it. The things going on in Japan and China and that region right now are definitely on the uptick, as are the things going on in Europe. So this is going to be very interesting to see if we have a summer filled full of war between two, Europe and the Pacific. We could be stretched very thin. Now, I did see the article write up about Russia and China attacking the U.S. I'm just going to keep doing analysis on the data to watch the movement of things. I don't know that I'm overly concerned about that just yet, but I don't put anything out of reach for both of those countries, given the fact that our administration is extremely weak. And if there was ever a time to strike the U.S., this administration would be the one. They'd never do this on Trump. That is a guarantee. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it. Keep that powder dry and stay frosty because times, they are changing. You guys be safe out there. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at McGuireUS.com.